Hey, thanks for tuning in to Restaurant Coach Podcast. It is the cure for the common restaurant. I am joined today by my culinary brother from another mother,
That's right.
Chef Adam Lamb. Chef, how
So
are you
nice to
today?
be here, brother. So nice.
So
You know,
good, man.
I
It's
was
been a
thinking
while.
I was thinking about when I got your invite. It's been probably about 6 or 7 years since we first
Yeah.
connected on my podcast. And
Yep.
I remember very clearly because I got lots of angry letters.
Oh, about me?
Not a lot. There's always one sour grape in the bunch, right?
About I usually I always tell, either love me or hate me.
I happen to love you, man. I love the fact that you're so direct and you don't mess about because I was listening to one of your recorded podcasts about the 12 lies we tell ourselves
Hmm.
and this whole idea about like it's later than you think, so you might as well fucking get going.
Yeah, that was my big epiphany because I died a couple years ago. I had a cardiac arrest and died. That was like that was like the big guy upstairs saying, "I'm gonna give you one last chance." It's like, okay, I got the wording, I got the message this time. I'm gonna get it on it. I'm after it. I'm on it. I'm after
and
it.
and so I would ask, what have you done with that chance, sir?
I've done everything. I've blown up my podcast. I've blown up my coaching business. I'm almost done with book number 3. Your restaurant culture sucks.
That's a big topic now, man. I
It's,
think I think we
you
could do
know,
like 2 hours on that.
we could talk for days. You and I could probably talk for days about culture alone. And in fact, let's kind of kick it off with something like that. COVID. And I was commenting before the show started about how your goatee looked good, and you said it's amazing what you can grow underneath a mask.
Surgical mask, right?
Surgical mask for a year and a year and a half almost. What's your kind of view of the industry right now?
I was lucky enough to get a job at a retirement community, if you'd had asked me 4 years ago, I would have told you that that wasn't a possibility. But
Yeah.
I kind of backed into this thing, and the universe kind of provided a clear path, and it was very easy, although it was a lot of work. Took over for a chef who'd been there 13 years and a dining director who'd been there 13 years, and I was responsible for both front of the house for 650 people. And
Hmm.
so when COVID hit, the thought did occur to me, kind of shamefully, like, man, I'm lucky. You know, I'm gainfully employed, and I know so many people who are like instantaneously out of a job,
Yeah.
and not only out of a job, but out of prospects. It took the government a while to react to that. So I was kind of like front row center for not only trying to create and nurture a culture of compassion and grace during this particular time because we had people who, several line cooks, lead line cooks had brothers, mothers. There were people breaking down in the middle of the day
Yeah.
for no apparent reason.
Hmm.
And I look back on my career and I know that there was probably a point where that would have fallen on deaf ears, and I would have just said, okay, get back. And I'm so thankful that for whatever reason, I smartened up and got some Jesus in me because what I recognized was that my only job really was to be in relationship with these people and hold space so
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
could go anywhere that they needed. And then upon reflection of that, I recognized how rare that is. In
Hmm.
my experience of, people who mentored and coached me, there were some really, really brilliant people. And there were some people who, you know, kind of blew me off on the shoulder and said, hey, listen, you're going to either sink or swim, suck it up, sunshine. So that's
Hmm.
kind of where I come down on it. And so I consider this a huge opportunity for the industry. I call it the great reset because if operators and culinarians and
Hmm.
coaches, if we don't smarten the fuck up, we won't survive another
No shit.
COVID. And it's only a matter of time. Might not be in our lifetime, but it is
Hmm.
almost guaranteed that it's going to happen again. And I can take the path all the way back to the 80s when the first time I saw, 1-800-BE-A-CHEF sign. Oh yeah,
Oh.
man. That was it. That was in the early 80s in South Florida. And I kind of knew at that point that we as an industry had abdicated the responsibility of educating our young ones. And prior to that, the only way you really knew is to get a job and find somebody who was, who would actually mentor you.
Right.
And so I think that's a lost art. And so we talked before the show started about this idea of building community.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we kind of throw out, this guy replied to me on Facebook today, kind of pounding the desk about, a lot of chefs think it's just about great cuisine and how sharp and how cool your knife is. And we as chefs perform so many other duties. And I shouldn't say chefs, but restaurant owners, shift leaders, anybody who's willing to take that responsibility to be in relationship with someone else, to me, is a leader. So it doesn't really matter what's on your jacket. But this whole idea about, we are ministering not only to our community, but also to our associates. So forgive me if I get a little religious, but it's a sanctified thing that we enter into this relationship. Like I'm going to put my hands all over the food that you are going to stick in your mouth. You're actually going to take in my energy. And if I am not present and aware of what's going on in every moment, you end up at McDonald's. Like, yeah, it's calories, but it's not really.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah,
great opportunity, and just kind of scared that there's going to be a lot of operators who are going to miss the boat on this. And the smart ones, clear opportunity, and it's not necessarily always about money, although we have, as a culture and an industry, wasted our human capital for far too long.
That's the big thing I see. I think we have as an industry, and there's tons of stereotypes out there about the restaurant industry.
Sure, absolutely.
And here's the thing: every time there's a stereotype, there's usually some kind of truth behind it a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we treat people like shit. We work you long hours. We pay you dirt. You're basically gonna miss your whole life. You're not gonna have any time for your family, your friends, or your kids. We set this thing up, and I hate to say, a lot of those reality TV shows kind of perpetuate that too.
Yes, they do.
Chefs are assholes. You gotta yell, scream. You gotta break them down. You gotta build them up.
One of the things that one of the benefits that this they call them CCRCs, but this retirement community offered all their employees was they were in contract with a local, I hate to call them psychiatrists, but a counseling service. And so it was completely anonymous. And all you needed to do was go get a pamphlet, make a phone call. And the only thing the business knew is that they were getting a bill. And I don't know how many times I was in an office or in a hallway holding this pamphlet saying, listen, man, you got to go talk to somebody. I mean, I get you probably don't want to talk to me, or there's nobody in your family that you want to talk to, but that one simple benefit to me is like proof positive. Like the simple things are really what matter in the long run. It's the smile. It's the, you really kicked it out of the ballpark, or, having a coaching counseling session where it's more about bringing awareness than it is pounding the shit out of somebody. And, I'm a little long in the tooth. And there were many years that I wish I had been this wise, but now that I am, man, I'm going to fucking preach it every goddamn day. Exactly. Because the sooner someone starts adopting this type of way of being in their operation, I heard you say on that, made me laugh my ass off. In your podcast, talking about energy, what you put out comes back in.
Energy is everything.
Well, it's because I believe it too.
Yeah, it's true, man. Energy is everything. Everything fucking hashtag write this shit down. Energy is fucking everything. Hashtag write this shit down. Energy is fucking everything.
It's at the quantum level, everything's commingled.
It is.
So who you are in that emotional state in that moment, and you're working with food, that energy is going to be bound up in the physical 3D world and then carried through to someone else. And so I'm even clearly aware of times when I was pissed off cooking for my kids or some other shit because it's like, oh my God, it's my day off. What the fuck? I don't want to work the grill. And, we're not always going to be, rock stars, but it seems to me that I could have done a better job of just like that 30-second or 3-second moment between action and reaction. If I could have just taken in a deep breath just for a second, even walk away, like, listen, I'll come back to you in a second. And that's kind of my way of being now. Like, I might be completely overwhelmed and stressed in that moment, but I'm not going to shit on anybody else.
Exactly. So I got the title of your new book, man.
Go ahead.
All right. I just wrote this down. I said, this is gonna be this is gonna be an Amazon bestseller. Ready?
Uh-huh.
New book by Chef Adam Lamb.
Uh-huh.
Quantum Chef Shit.
Quantum Chef Shit. I got it.
That's it. Quantum Chef Shit. That's gonna be the new bestseller. I'm telling you right now.
I've written something very similar to that about 7 times,
Mm-hmm.
but I get to that point where I start to self-edit the same 10 pages.
Just put it out there, brother.
I had a book called Lapdog about this guy that I worked with because he basically did everything, okay, yeah, chef, absolutely. Meanwhile, he's seething inside, and I had the book almost done, and I turned around and there was Kitchen Confidential, and I went, fuck. I didn't appreciate in that moment that as good as Anthony Bourdain is,
Mm-hmm.
it's his voice.
Yeah.
And your voice, my
different.
voice, the listeners' voices, that, no one else is going to be attracted to that voice.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're silent, if you're keeping quiet because you don't think you got it or whatever that bullshit conversation is,
Exactly.
there are people who are going to miss out on that. They're going to people. And I don't know about you, Donald, but reconnecting myself with a lot of the chef groups on social media,
Mm-hmm.
I am fucking devastated, man, because there's every day a post picture about some chef and his buddies like gone too soon, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Some are natural causes, but there are clearly a huge group of people who are deciding to check out, leaving behind small children. And to me, that's just it. I wasn't necessarily present for my children when I was growing up because it was all about me and the pinnacle of my success. But to think that I wouldn't be there for them at all, that's harsh, man. That's a harsh decision.
That's really harsh. And we're going to throw it right now too. If anybody ever feels that way, reach out to us. Adam and I are both always available. You can email me at Donald@therestaurantcoach. And I'll put up my email right quick. You can always reach Chef Adam. He's over at chefliferadio.com.
Yep.
But hey, we'll listen. Let's talk, man. Nothing's ever that bad. That there's always opportunity and options. So
and you might not necessarily want to talk to us, but the United Way's got 211.
Yep.
Excellent service.
Excellent service.
There's websites like Chefs with Issues, although I don't think that's on the Facebook page is still up. I don't know that the website is. And consequently, there's, after Kat Kinsman did that, there were some millennials and some really, really smart people who said, yeah, we got to jump on that. There's somebody I know in Philadelphia, Maria Campbell, who started an organization called Cooks Who Care. There's a guy out in San Diego who created not only an organization, but a training program called I Got Your Back.
Yeah.
And it's basically a way to communicate with people in stand-up. How you doing? How you doing, John? I'm a little crispy this morning, chef. All right, maybe you need to get to a meeting then.
Yeah, really.
Like not really coming out with it, but at least
Mm-hmm.
at least there's an attempt to connect. And I think sometimes that's all that matters for people.
And that kind of segues me to my next question. I think one of the things we're missing in the industry is like true, authentic leadership.
Well, I guess I would ask you, how do you define it?
Leadership to me is I think it's being there and being present for your team, using emotional intelligence, being, self-aware, having self-motivation, also understanding empathy, helping people become their best version of themselves. That's what I think. What do you think is what would you say is like a critical trait for a leader, a great leader?
So 7 years ago when I started Chef Life Radio, it was basically a beat up laptop and a USB mic that my girlfriend, who was Canadian, I was in Canada at that time, couldn't work. And so I sat at the kitchen table nights and crafted these audio love letters back to the crew that I was missing in Virginia. And over time, I got better and better and better. And one of the series that I landed on was Be a Better Chef. And so the question is, what's the difference between a good chef and a great chef? And it comes down to, most of it is emotional intelligence, but a lot of it is also presence and like actually looking people in the eye. Like I know that we as an industry are very, very risk averse, and we don't like to get into a lot of confrontation at all. So we'll ignore, somebody on fire in on the line rather than, actually go and deal with it. And I know that's a gross exaggeration, so you'll forgive me about it. Some people might take offense at that. But I have walked away from situations earlier in my career where I knew that I needed to do something and I just
Right.
didn't know what to do, instead of just inserting myself in the process and just being like, just asking questions.
Mhm.
And so I've developed this style of being the stupid one in the room. So I ask these questions like I don't know anything.
Mm.
And usually it starts off with, are you okay? Is there something I need to know? Because things don't seem like you're not the same today. And I totally get we have our good days and our bad days, but there's, I'm a little concerned, and there's some others that have. So is everything cool at home? Do you have any
Yeah, yeah.
da, 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 da? And if they're going like, nah, everything's great. Like, okay, you fucking asshole. Come here.
Come here.
This shit is unacceptable.
Come here.
But if you don't start there, because I've had, especially in the last year and a half, so I'm thinking particularly of a lead cook who's a drummer of a thrash band and just one of the coolest guys you ever want to know.
Mhm.
Hardworking, comes in, wants to do his business, but he's very, and at points he's very kind of stoic. I got another sous chef over there on the side who's bouncing around the kitchen like a puppy dog because he wants to kind of engage everybody. And he was rubbing up against, kind of bouncing up around this guy who kind of wanted to know what was going on, and definitely not keeping social distancing.
Oh wow.
And it took this dude 3 days and 9 pages of single spaced handwriting to come in my office and explain to me how absolutely devastated he was, because he was interpreting what this other person was doing
Mhm.
as not only not giving a shit about him, but also not giving a shit about his wife, his dad who had emphysema,
Mm.
because he was absolutely petrified that he was going to bring the virus home.
Yeah, yeah.
And unfortunately, after taking every single precaution, that's what happened. And he was just completely, emotionally like checked out for a while, man. He like
Yeah.
kind of lost his mojo.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so at that point, it's my job to like just be elbow to elbow and sometimes just be silent and not say anything, even though I'm not working in the kitchen. I'm still kind of just being present. And sometimes that's all it takes for someone to just actually start. So I learned this discipline where if you have a hard conversation, you sit side by side. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
sit face to face.
Mm.
So
So
you're
next.
looking over a balcony, you're driving in a car or whatever, and all of a sudden, and I think about all the times you're elbow to elbow with somebody on the line or in the front of the house, and that's your natural position. It's not
Mm.
face to face. So if you can actually be conscious about how you're engaging somebody in a way that's non-threatening,
Mhm.
man, there's all kinds of fucking juice around that, man.
There's tons of juice.
Yeah.
It's true. So I'm a huge believer of self care.
Yep.
What do you do to take care of yourself now?
So pre-pandemic, I was doing great, working out every day. I
Mhm.
wasn't doing very, very good as far as meditation. I had an interview with somebody who I've known for forever, and she's pretty hardcore. Been working in the restaurant industry for 14
Mhm.
years, and at this point now she's got a coach. Which she laughingly said, yeah, it's 6 weeks. It's not a big deal. No, now it's been a year, and
Yeah.
she meditates first thing in the morning. She
Mhm.
meditates at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's got a little insight timer whenever she needs to take a breath. So
Mhm.
I've been following Joe Dispenza and his meditation work for the last, I want to say 4 years, and doing it sporadically. And so we laugh about a lot of these kind of ridiculous situations, but I'm clear that there were times in my career where I was absolutely the fucking problem.
Exactly.
I
Me
didn't
too.
smarten up for a while, and I did my best to lead the team, to keep them focused. You got to understand, Donald, after years of this industry, I knew in my heart of hearts that there is a way to conduct business and be in relationship with the associates that far surpasses anything else. So this was going to be my test kitchen.
Mhm.
100 associates, 600 residents. And I was so close until COVID hit. And then every shit hit the fan. We pivoted immediately. We changed up our entire operation. We went from, serving in-person dining in four different restaurants to a single boxed meal a day delivered by the servers.
Wow.
You know, we had to ramp up, you know, these eco containers and put recyclable containers everywhere so that people weren't, you know, dropping them on the floor. We had to borrow vans, so there was, you know, me and two servers driving around the cottages dropping all that stuff.
Mhm.
And it was surprising to me because there's always a couple people who want to carp about shit, right?
Right.
They want to enroll everyone else in their emotional misery because they don't want to be wrong about it. But when COVID hit, man, this team came together in a way that I'd never experienced ever.
That's so cool.
And they were all about the business. And, you know, I was having daily stand-ups, you know, getting the entire team together in the ballroom and, you know, preaching about having compassion and grace for yourself and everyone else. And I wasn't doing anything to fill my cup.
Hmm.
So by the time March rolled around, I was cooked, burnt,
Yeah.
spent, you know, self-medicating with alcohol. My wife was worried about me. And it just so happened that Joe Dispenza was having a week-long meditation retreat in Orlando.
Oh, no way.
And if you're not on the site at 10 a.m., man, 10:03, the thing sold out, and somehow it all worked out. So I told my boss, 3 weeks later, I'd had surgery on my neck, and I'm like, no, I'm not taking this off. So went down there, 1,600 people in a ballroom doing these really, really focused meditations. And my wife she didn't even know who I was by every day when I came back. And so as my energy coalesced and got, when it got to be not so quite fractured and it started flowing, I knew that anything that wasn't of that same vibration was going to fucking fall away, man. So it wasn't any surprise to me when I came back to work and, you know, shit had hit the fan and people were talking shit about me. And, you know, my boss wanted to fire me. And I said, okay, well, I tell you what, why don't I just give you the gift? And here's 3 months. Not because I was being an asshole to her, but I had realized at that point that there had been so much water under the bridge that there's some relationships that are never going to come back.
Right.
But what I made sure to do was to go to each one of the managers and sit in front of them and say, yeah, I'm sorry that I wasn't present to you for the last 2 months. I wasn't present to myself, but I took care of myself, and now I have some tools and I am all in. Are we good? And, you know, I'm sitting in the fire where they're screaming, yelling at me. And I'm like, yeah, cool. I deserve it. Didn't try to make them wrong. I was just okay with the way it was because I knew that if they didn't expel that energy, it would reside in them for a while and they would carp and bitch all the side.
Right.
So I have gotten to be absolutely rigorous about doing my morning meditation.
Yeah.
Even if it's 30 minutes every night. So there's this great app called Mind Movies where you can actually, and some of the images are kind of bullshit, but you know, the whole idea is it's an activated, not storyboard, but dream boards where people used to put but now you have images and you put music to it and you can look at it on your phone. And the idea is you get into right before you go to sleep and you're in this liminal space, which is between consciousness and sleep. And you watch this and there's no filter in the prefrontal cortex for those images to go back. And they're anchored by the music. So every time you hear the music, it's reinforced. And so I got to say that some of the things that I put in that Mind movie are already starting to happen, which is kind of scary.
I know. I think that stuff's cool. I have like a vision board in my office, and a lot of stuff's already happened already. It's like, it's freaky.
Yeah. Well, your energy goes where your attention is.
It does. Energy flows where attention goes.
So if you're all about how shitty your boss is and how it sucks, and you feel bamboozled, and which I was for a while until I just checked myself out. I'm like, I got to fucking go, man.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, they're going to be walking me out in handcuffs.
You know, in restaurant owners,
wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, but you know, restaurant owners do it all the time. Like, there's no good people out there. People are lazy. People don't want to work. What do you think comes and applies?
I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, I don't believe that at all. But people put that energy out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so all the good people go somewhere else.
Yeah, and they attract if they think there's no good people out there, that people are lazy, people don't want to work, that's what they get.
So I don't think I've ever heard you say this, but I believe it to my bones, and you can take it if you want. But I believe job number one for any leader, owner, or ship like
anybody,
job number one is to put people in the positions in which they will succeed.
Exactly.
Because so many, like, you're a great server, you're an assistant manager now.
Yeah.
What, without any skills?
Without any
Like
training.
without any
without any
workshops?
training
Nothing?
too. Yeah, no
Nothing.
training.
Nothing.
They did
Like,
a survey. They did a survey. They said 85% of people who are put into a leadership role felt they did not get adequate training to be put in that role.
right.
It's terrible.
Right. And you tag that with
people up.
Peter principle, where people get promoted to the point of their incompetency.
Yeah,
Again,
exactly.
because there's no support, and really the people above them are just looking to fill a slot.
Mhm.
And it makes me very, very cautious so the last job I had, and I don't know at what, like when I had time to do this, but I actually created formalized training programs, job classifications, wage ranges. The only way you moved up is if you took a test and all this different stuff. It's like if I was coming into the industry and I didn't really know anything, gosh, I wish someone would just point me in the right direction, right? Instead of floundering around. And then there are those guys are like, go get the left-handed whisk, dude.
Yeah, really.
Like, come on. Haven't we had enough of that fucking shit? It wasn't enough for us. Like, just because it was done to us doesn't
mean
give us permission to fucking do to others, man.
Exactly.
Because with as few people who are applying right now, we better get fucking really good at training them the fuck up and giving them the emotional tools in which to really succeed. Because when they go on to do their thing and they come back years later and go, Chef, you know what? I didn't really get it when you said it, but now I get you completely.
Yeah. And that's one of the things. I just launched a new course with my restaurant coaching program. It's called the Leadership Blueprint, because I felt there was a huge gap between the leadership training people are getting. And actually today's module, I just had class before we got on the call. Today's module was all about emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of very many places that I ever worked, corporate or standalone, that had any real type of
No one.
formalized training. One of the things that I instituted was this associate manager covenant. Like, okay, so you're going to sign here. I'm going to sign here. This is what I say I'm going to do. And this is what you promise that you'll do.
Right.
And at any point, either one of us can hold each other accountable for like where we're going from this. And I created a leader and development program, kind of like bootstrapped, because there was this guy who was clearly foundering, and there were people who wanted to bounce him the fuck out. I'm like, yeah, I get he's a little weird, and sometimes he comes off, kind of like, I'm going to be a policeman, but there was something about him. And so I basically, over the course of the weekend, put together a lot of these resources that that I had used in other places, cobbled this thing together. And God damn it, man, if he didn't end up to be sous chef and just came and gave his notice, he's going to be an executive chef at a brewery.
Oh, wow.
And don't you know that during COVID, he really got into brewing. So there's this whole career path that's now
pretty
open
cool.
to him. Yeah, man. I got to be really good at cheese.
Did you really?
Yeah, man. I can make like 12 different kinds of goat cheese.
Seriously?
From raw organic milk. I got 3 pieces right here, right in back of so this is kind of like the basement inspiration lab. It's actually a bunker, but so there's all kinds of things.
You're getting into some food products too. You have some other food products too. You have a hot sauce, right?
I have 4 hot sauces, sir.
4 hot sauces.
Hotdamnpeppersauce.com, and it's all chef crafted small batch.
Hotdamnpeppersauce.com.
There's a red Fresno. There's a Thai. There's a New Mexico hatch. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
So, coming up here, I'm going to make a call. Well, actually, there was a company that took pre-orders. And so I've got like about 6 or 8 cases that are going to be coming. And the last one is a Cayenne. So it's all, like I said, small batch fermented, about 8 to 10 weeks. And I work out of the North Carolina Agricultural Extension here in Madison County. In the mountains, they have a value-added kitchen. And they charge $25 for 6 hours.
That's it?
Plus storage.
Yeah, that's
bonus.
Cool.
It's cool. It's cool.
Did you say hotdamnpeppersauce.com?
Hotdamnpeppersauce.com.
I want to make sure I put this. I'll throw it in the show notes right there. I'll say, like it hot, www.hotdamnpeppersauce.com.
Well, it ain't just hot, bro. It's got lots of flavor too. So
lots of flavor, yeah. Like it hot, like flavor. How about flavor? We'll say you like flavor. Check what and you can always connect with Adam too at chefliferadio.com too.
That's correct.
Yeah. So let's talk about mentors. Who are some of your mentors?
Um, so this is where it gets a little dicey for me because I didn't have an apprenticeship. I basically started washing dishes at 15 and pretended that I knew what I knew to get a job, and then I was really, really good at learning, looking over people's shoulders. So my very, very first executive chef was a woman at the Lansing Country Club in Illinois, and she proceeded to visit upon me almost every single insult that had been given to her.
Oh my God.
You know, she wasn't being vicious about it, but she's like, you don't know, you don't know. And that was my very first taste at like gender inequality. And I think I was probably 19.
Oh wow.
And as it turned out, at almost every opportunity that I was an executive chef somewhere, there was always a woman as a sous chef. And what I came to recognize is that it ain't easy, man. And they're a lot harder than any men. And really all they're looking for is someone to just acknowledge them as human beings. And then this whole thing comes down where they can actually inhabit their space in a way where they're comfortable and they actually produce more. So my very first executive chef job, there was a guy by the name of Ed Jameson. He was the food and beverage director. And his son, JJ, thought the world of me. And so he came to work for me. And at that time, it was all fun and games. My very first one. Bears just won the Super Bowl. I'm working for Ditka's. I'm out at Arlington Park Racetrack, away from the corporate office. And, you know, me and a sous chef are splitting an 8-ball every night or every weekend. Not every night. It wasn't that bad. But Ed sat me down in the office. He's like, so there's something going on, right? he was an old crusty dude. He was one of the original meat buyers for one of the old Chicago steakhouses where they would go down and hand punch the meat. I mean, the stories he would tell me, but it was kind of like glory days. You know, I'd glaze over and like, no, dude, we're here. And yet in that space where I was really struggling, he gave me an opportunity to own up to it and to take care of it. And then when I came back to him and I said, okay, I'm good. He's like, we done? I'm like, yep. Like, okay, let's get to work. And in the end, there was a genuine love and affection between us that was really an important thing for me to experience early in my career. So, and along the way, there were others that kind of did the same thing. There was a guy by the name Mark Sioko, who's dead now. And he was actually younger than I, but he was more corporate. He did Kenny Rogers. He did Kenny Rogers for years. And he rescued me out of a really shitty hotel job with the dreams of opening up this movie theater / restaurant. Like, it's dinner and a movie, man. But, you know, the entire second floor was this huge expanse of a restaurant with, you know, handcrafted, like it hadn't been done yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, 60-inch love seats in the balconies and free popcorn and concessions that are all. And so I was there for 6 years, and like year 2, he tells me that he's got colon cancer, and he's married to a woman that I had like the deepest crush on for the longest time, because we had all come out of Charlie's Crab in Fort Lauderdale. And Mark was one of the most amazing human beings I've ever worked with, and could be incredibly calm in dicey situations and just chill me right out. And I remember being in Vegas with him towards the end, and he's like, you know, I'm dying. Like, we're in the middle of this huge casino and music is bouncing everywhere. Like, you know, I'm dying, right? And I'm like, yeah, dude, no problem. Like, where do you want to go? I'm your wingman, whatever you want to do. If you want to smoke crack out of light bulbs, I'm good. Like, I'm there, present, holding the space. You do whatever you want to do. And in the end, we woke up the next morning and flew back before the end of the conference. But it was one of these things about, I've always been a sucker for love, man. And I got into the industry because I saw an opportunity to be in relationship with people. Like, it was never about my type of cuisine. It was about being in love with, you know, the thieves and the pirates. And, you know, it didn't matter where you came from, because if you could hold your shit down, you were accepted. And that type of acceptance was really, really powerful for me. And so I've tried in my career to make sure that the people who I'm in a relationship with get that I accept them right where they're at. And I don't expect them to be anything else. Although, you know, we got to call out bad behavior,
Yeah.
and we also need to chart a path. And
Exactly.
there's one person I'm thinking of in particular who's gone on to do very, very well for himself. But I pulled that motherfucker out of apartments way too many times, smoke billowing out of it. And it's like, dude, what are you fucking doing?
Mhm.
What are you doing? And everybody else is just like, he's done. Get rid of him. And yet, when you fall in love with somebody, it's hard, man.
Mhm.
Like, I have fallen in love so many times with men, women, bosses, dishwashers. Presently, there's this really, really powerful dishwasher. I hate to call him a dishwasher because he carves melons, and he was taught by one of the best chefs in Asheville. And we've gone through this period where he'd like get mad at me, it wouldn't talk to me, like it patently ignore me, and I'm like, "Wah!" And then turn around and grab each other and give each other a big hug. And it's like, those are the moments for me that just really encourage me to keep my heart open, because I know that when I close it down, that's when I'm in trouble. That's a really long answer. I'm sorry, dude.
That's a good answer. That's a great answer, actually. So let's talk about a serious topic that's happening right now with the headlines. Is that labor crisis?
Yep.
What do you think the real issue is?
Culture.
Exactly.
I firmly believe that the industry, and I know in some hashtag chef groups on LinkedIn and Facebook that it's popular to bash bosses and owners and stuff. And I always try to kind of redirect that conversation to, no, dude, we're the industry.
Exactly.
We're the industry.
Yeah.
And there were many years, Donald, where I was singing the same fucking song, man, being the victim. Even though I thought I was being a leader, I recognized that if there was a moment where I was in judgment of anybody else, gave my power away, I'm a victim.
I get in online arguments with people all the time because I'll put that question out there. And I always say it's and I put up a little meme. It's like an owner saying, "Oh, people don't want to work," and then the other person saying, "No, people don't want to work with you."
Right.
That's
right. Right. The executive chef of my present opportunity, very, very sneaky. What do they call that when passive aggressive? So passive aggressive. So what he would do is he would put these screensavers on his computer when he left the day.
Oh, no way.
I have to walk this. And he wasn't necessarily directing it at me, but it's like, people don't leave jobs; they leave managers.
They do. Exactly. Do. That's 100% true.
Yep. And so the question
culture is that invisible. I always say culture is the secret sauce that separates the good, the great from outstanding.
Yeah. I want to break it down even further, because sometimes culture, gosh, is that a mission statement? Is it a vision statement?
No,
do we have to have workshops? I mean, for me, it's about how willing are you to actually build community in your space?
Exactly.
Like, how willing are you actually, to go there and let people know that you care about them as a human being, instead of who's on Fry today?
Yeah, who's on Friday? And then he's out of whack. You know something's wrong with him, but you don't address it. You just ignore it.
Yeah, there's I'm gonna call him out right now, Kevin, and won't say his last name, but there were times when he would be working the line at lunch, and when I'd walk up on the line, he would kind of straighten himself out and put his hands on his hips and breathe through his teeth. And I'm like, oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Yeah. You were outweighed. And there were some times when I just wanted to make him pay for it. So nope, dude, I'm not going to cut you. And then there were other days it's like, you got to get to a meeting, because I say this in one of the articles on FoodWorks. That's FoodWerksinc.com, FoodWorks Incorporated. One of the kick out quotes is, "Chef, I'm feeling a little itchy and I think I need to get to a meeting. Said no line cook ever."
Ever. Yeah, no shit. That's the truth.
But it's because we're not accepting of it. Like, we won't engage them in conversation about our own shit. And so they have this perception that but the reality is we're just as fragile as anybody else. But the difference is that we've actually either created disciplines, structures, processes, or been gifted tools by which we can mitigate that. Because really, in the end, everybody's just trying to, deal with the stress, deal with the pain, deal with the sadness in whatever way that happens to be convenient, and it ain't easy to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym. But, you know, after about a week or 10 days, it sure fucking feels good.
Feels great. Yeah. So that brings me up to the topic you just mentioned it, you know, and it's a word I think a lot of chefs and a lot of restaurant owners stay away from: vulnerability, because there are a lot of misconceptions about vulnerability.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. You know, being vulnerable is not being less or being weak. It's being open. It's being attentive. It's being present. It's being active listening. It's being empathetic.
It's also, it gives people permission to be who they are as well.
Exactly.
Like when they can, and I'm not, there have been moments where I've been brought almost to tears by the beauty of what I've been beholding, but it's not like I was trying to push that off as like, as some kind of act. I just was really moved. And in that moment, I was really, really fucking happy that I could be moved, that I wasn't so jaded and bitter and fucking broken up, because there were times in my life when I thought that was the case. You know, I ended up on island of Tortola, British Virgin Islands, after 5 years of an opioid addiction with 10 pills and a bottle of Brugal rum in this shitty little fucking apartment overlooking the sea, going, what am I doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck am I doing? And true story, I went to the pharmacist and I said, hey, can you fill my prescription? And they're like, oh, no, we don't have those. I'm like, well, where do I have to go? No, on the island, they're only used for surgical procedures. And I'm like,
wow.
Shit, that means I have to fly to Miami every month, $500 round trip, in order to get my prescription filled? Now, come to find out that, you know, St. Thomas, which is a U.S. protectorate, is only about 10 minutes away by boat. But thank God I didn't think of that. So I was just wrapping myself up in a blanket and going, fuck it, man. This is not going to take me out. And I was 270 pounds, bloated, sick, sweaty, and I just started trudging up a fucking hill. And I shit you not, Donald, in that dark moment, I made a decision that I wasn't just going to survive, but that I was going to thrive.
Yeah.
4 weeks later, somebody sends me an MP3 unmarked, listening to this woman talk about science and spirituality, and I get to the very end and she says her website. I go to the website and I recognize the fact that I had met her 8 months before.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And I sent her an email saying, hey, listen, I don't know if you remember me, thinking that I was going to get a discount on the program. And she said, oh, you're the chef, right? And I said, yeah. She said, well, you want to come to Bimini? I'm taking a group of 20 people there to swim with the wild dolphins. You're more than welcome. And that was the start of May 18th, 2011. We reconnected again in Fort Lauderdale before taking a plane to Bimini, and Jennifer and I haven't been apart since.
Oh, that's amazing, man.
But that could not have happened if I didn't make that fucking decision, man.
Yeah.
And along the way, there have been a couple times when, you know, I almost, you know, I was really tempted to make another decision, but, you know, she keeps calling me up, and I'm glad for that. Not in a harsh way, but it's like, baby, you know, it's like, did you do your process today? Yes or no?
Yep.
As if she even needs to ask, because by the time I'm getting home, I'm, you know, all angst ridden, and she's like, go in your office, shut the fucking door. I don't want to hear you I don't want to see you for another hour. So sometimes her discipline outperforms mine.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
You know, we all need that, though. We all need some people. You know, everyone needs somebody that calls them out. I still have the same business coach I've had since 2009.
That's beautiful, man.
You know, same business coach since 2009. He calls me on my shit.
And as you say that, because this came up in conversation yesterday, everyone needs a coach. I don't give a fuck who you are. The highest performing people in any industry employ 4 or 5 different coaches. Like the lie that we tell ourselves that we have to fucking figure it out ourselves.
It's such bullshit.
Man, well, it's not bullshit. It's what we've been fucking fed, trained, shamed, and conditioned to fucking believe. And the reality is that what you need in any particular moment is an outside perspective, and you can't fucking solve the problem with the same brain who created it. Thank you.
Einstein.
Yep. So
thank you, Einstein, for that one. Yeah. So if you came with a warning label, what would your warning label say?
Oh, that's a great one. Things are closer than they appear.
Really?
I used to pride myself on being the tree shaker, challenging people, not necessarily emotionally, but I would, be kind of up in people's space and I'm a big guy, so I learned earlier on that that can be very, very intimidating. And anybody who stands up to that is not ruffled, that goes a long way in my book. And I got to tell you, if you're my friend and we're sitting in a bar and you're talking to me about your problems, get ready, man, because it continue to be a victim. Cool. I don't have to sit there and listen to it, and I'll give you plenty of reasons and opportunities to change that. But I also get that everybody comes to their own truth in their own time, and I've learned to be a lot more gracious about it. Like I want to be concerned with, my awakening, my peace,
Right.
my discipline, and not quite so much about anyone else. Although I will tell you that, if you and I were in the same room, I'd be sitting right next to you, brother. So,
Of course.
yeah.
Elbow to elbow, man. When people first meet you, what's the first thing? Especially like, you do podcasting, you have, Chef Life Radio. What's the first comment people say when they first meet you?
I don't know. What was the first thought that went through your head?
You're bigger, you're taller than I thought. That's usually what people say to me. Damn, you're a lot taller than I thought.
What's weird is people ask me my age all the time now, and I don't know why. And I think it's because I carry myself as a very energetic, joyful, kind of goofy person of some indistinct age. But we're always trying to put things in boxes so that we can create an understanding around it.
Exactly. We always put things in boxes so we can understand it.
So I was with a consulting client over last weekend. Dad and mom had owned these 3 restaurants, and they were going to bequeath them to daughter and son. So we were kind of working on some structures. And Dad turns to me, and Dad's kind of beat up, just got done with colon cancer, and like, how old are you? I said 61. He's like, 61. He's like, I'm only 60. And so there have been these moments over the last probably 6 months where I have come to understand just how fucking lucky and blessed I am. For someone who, had rode this industry hard, both on shift and off, and made some really questionable decisions. My body has been my best friend and a champion, and all I got to do is get out of its fucking way, and it comes right into stasis. So, yeah.
So that leads me to another question. How do you deal with stress?
I guess I would say, if I'm grounded in the morning and I'm doing my meditation, and I really, really, really feel it. So there's this whole philosophy about how you're supposed to meditate. Basically, there's an idea of like creating intention, like getting completely clear and into the field, meaning the quantum field, like where you just dissolve into nothingness, and then you launch a desire because it already exists there. So so thought launches it, and your heart brings it back. So you have to have an equivalent emotion like love, gratitude, compassion in order to bring that back and land it in 3D. So 5D to 3D.
Oh,
so
very cool.
By the time I walk out of that space, there is very, very little that's going to pull me off.
Have you ever heard of heart math?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I do heart math.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have like a little, I call it the triad. So I always do mind work, which is meditation. I always do breath work, and then I do body work, which I usually go to Orange Theory or Planet Fitness. So
right, exactly. Yeah. You've posted enough pictures about that, sir.
Yeah, I know. I posted a lot about
so I think the stress that I haven't been really that has been the most challenge has been I had a narcissistic mother, and sometimes I forget that the women in my life are not my mother, even though they might be showing up that way emotionally in the moment, whether they're whether my interpretation is they're being manipulative or whatever. So I have to be very, very, not cautious, but just present. So Jennifer and I worked with a really, really great relationship coach from California, not last year, but the year before. And so she's explaining the difference between the masculine and the feminine. Of course, this is a lot of stuff that Jennifer teaches. But she said, imagine that a woman back in the day when it was hunter-gatherers, the men are all out hunting and the women are gathering and they've got their baskets and they're going through the field and they're all talking to one another about, they found this over here, they found this over here. Well, that basket gets full. And if they don't have an opportunity to empty their basket, the basket's going to get dropped and it's going to come out kind of sideways and not really about what it is. So for a man who's very, very smart, he will always give his partner and sometimes his coworkers an opportunity to say, hey, listen, you want to drop your basket? You need to empty your basket because I don't have to take it personally because it got nothing to do with me, but I can hold the space for you.
Yeah, there you go.
And the other thing is that the feminine, they'll all talk over one another. That's why you get some girls in a group and the conversations are going all over the place. A man, and I'm not going to say a man, but I would say the masculine, likes to wrestle a particular concept or problem to the ground until he figures out the answer. And then he will get up and he will announce what the answer is. It's not a co-creative process. This is the way it's going to be. However, the feminine thinks that it's co-creation time. Yay! Jennifer and I out by the garden. She's like, but honey, I thought we were doing this together.
It's like, oh no.
But it's given me a perspective by which I can grasp very clearly that each of us have emotional needs. Yep. And that if we're not conscious to that and present, so Jennifer and I do this thing where we have kind of a mantra together. So what was your favorite part of the day or the last 24 hours? What was the most challenging? What was your aha? What's your experience of yourself right now? What are you grateful for? Or not what you're grateful for, but what are you, what are you grateful for yourself? And then it turns over. And so if there's this idea of being open, honest, transparent, and vulnerable in front of somebody else enough that it becomes a second way of being. And the other thing is that I've made a point of engaging in men's work and being in men's circles. There's something really, really powerful about, 8 or 10 guys from all different walks of life sitting around, whether a fire or inside of a room, and listening to someone else's pain in such a way that there was someone on Monday who said, I've never talked about this at all to anybody. And you could just feel the energy in the room where he was just able to release it and he felt lighter and he started smiling. So this idea of being able to hold space for other people is a good training for when you're at work and things are moving hot and heavy. And before, in previous situations, things are going so hot and heavy and I'm going at the speed of light that I can't catch up to myself. So I'm off the deep end before I even recognize it. So slowing down, being present to others, being empathetic, all those things are great trainings. I'm a big fan of hobbies. Someone wants to, no, chef, it's my life. Like, no, it ain't.
No, it ain't.
Get a fucking hobby.
No, it ain't. Yeah.
Broaden your perspective.
Exactly.
Because it's not all here. She's a shitty mistress, man. She will jilt you at 2 a.m. and you're going to go to sleep alone.
Exactly. What's one of your hobbies?
My hobbies? Writing, podcasting, riding my road bike, making goat cheese. I now make about 6 or 8 different types of goat cheese, the hot sauce, fermentation, drying foods. The last 2 years not being in the kitchen, I didn't know to the extent that I missed it until my wife pointed out, like, what are you doing in the kitchen again?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I'm a pretty curious guy, so I have endless curiosity, which I think for me has been a lifesaver because I've remained the acolyte. I've never become the master. I mean, I get that I am walking the path of the master, but I'm not there, and I'll be glad if I never will because there's just so much to experience along the way that I'm okay. I'll chop wood and carry water. That's what I'm gonna do. Just be present to that.
So what did you want to be when you were a little kid? Obviously, you always have these visions. So when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a zoologist. You remember Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, I want to be Marlon Perkins.
Yeah. Yeah. Or what
I wanna
about
be
Jim?
Merlin.
Jim was the buff
Jim,
one, you know.
Jim had it rough, man. Jim had to wrestle that fucking alligator all the time. Like nobody wanted to be Jim. You know, you want to be Merlin. Oh, look at Jim wrestling the alligator. Jim, oh Jim, that thing's gonna bite you.
Mhm. So there's this concept in psychology about brain chemistry, in that a memory, after being accessed so
Mhm.
many times, starts to lose its elasticity and becomes a faded
Mm.
remnant of actually what it was. So I tend to doubt the stories of my youth, although, you know, I'm in the process of writing this book called Circle Jerk: Lessons of Manhood My Father Never Taught Me.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's yeah. It's great in a lot of ways. And if you want to be a beta read for me, I
Yeah,
really
definitely.
appreciate your, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
So I got a
I loved
box
your
from
last book too.
no, thank you. I got a box of stuff from my mother and stuff from like elementary school and stuff. And so two things really struck out at me. Number one was how much I wrote, like writing
Oh, right.
stories and drawing. Although if I think back, I remember, or I seem to remember, that all I really wanted to do was to draw comics. You know, that's what I
Oh,
really,
really cool.
my passion was art, even though I did a lot of different stuff. But writing for me has been a constant through my entire life. And so, you know, whether it's poetries or song lyrics for the band that I was in, or short stories. And I think my mom has the very first story that I ever wrote, which, you know, had to been like 7 or 8.
Wow.
But so I wanted really bad, I think in my junior year, to be an architect like Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because there was something about what he did with the landscape and the integration and this, and even the right angles, to me was sexy as shit. So so between being a writer, an architect, and an artist, that was about it. How about
Yeah.
you? So always a zoologist?
No, it was a zoologist, and actually, I wanted to be an architect too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
It-
drafting. I loved doing that kind of stuff. That was great.
Yeah, I'm of the age where, you know, they had the cheesy the cheesy sitcoms where, you know, the father's always leaving New Rochelle to go into New York to do, you know, some type of work in an office building. Like nobody knows what the fuck that is. He could be an architect.
So, what's a quote you live by?
It's right here on my arm, so you can't really see it, but
Let's see it.
yeah, discipline is the price of my gift.
There you go.
And the gift being my life, because I spent some years of my life kind of in self-negation, taking on someone else's perception of what type of person I was. And then when I recognized that once you strip away all the personalities and all the shouldas and couldas, dude, I'm just a big goofy fucker who just, you know, likes to laugh and be in relationship with people. Like when I'm in my truest sense, I just, you know, I'm completely ludicrous. And God, man, I remember so clearly being so fucking pissed for years. I'm like, what a wasted opportunity. So I'm really glad to get back to that. But that discipline is about not only my physical structure, but my emotional and intellectual. And so I want to make sure that I am sharpening the sword every day.
There you go.
Whether that's reading, writing, being in relationship with other people. My curiosity is such that I love talking to people. And it used to be that I would be like much more interesting than I was interested. But I've managed to switch that around. So I spend a lot of time listening, although this is probably not a good example of that.
Oh man, you're doing an awesome job listening, brother.
Thanks.
So, what's a book, a podcast, or an audiobook you recommend?
A book?
A podcast or an audiobook?
So I love Stephen Pressfield on Audible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I love his stuff.
he's got some short ones. Mark Manson is a beast. As a matter of fact, the first time I saw his website, I realized that that's actually what I wanted all my life, but didn't know it until I saw it. So, and I love the concept of, you know, you only have so many fucks to give in a day.
Yeah.
So you better meter them out well.
It's on my shelf.
I love Ryan Holiday.
So I'm not giving a fuck. It's right on my shelf, right behind me.
Exactly.
Ryan Holiday's great too.
Yep.
Ego is the enemy.
I love science fiction and fantasy, some of the way older stuff. I was a big fan, or I still am a big fan of this guy by the name of Stephen Donaldson, who wrote three trilogies of a book called Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever,
Mm.
which is when I didn't realize it then because hadn't read Tolkien. But after you read Tolkien, you're like, dude, come on. But then he started writing some hardcore science fiction. That shit was dope. That was great. And so I would say that, so for shifting perspectives, there's nothing better than This American Life.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And I listened to a lot of podcasts back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Once my dad was not only a college professor, but he was a prolific piano player, and we got in this argument
Oh,
one
wow.
day. We got in this argument one day about modern music and how it all sucked. And so I went into my room and created this mixtape, the RJ Penworthy Hour, and it was like a really cheesy version of an NPR like Saturday night DJ. And believe it or not, somehow it fell back into my lap. I actually have a copy of it.
Very
But
cool.
this whole idea of like just fascinated with radio and podcasting is such that
Mhm.
it's intentional. Like you make a decision to pick up a podcast and turn it on and put those earbuds in your ear
Yeah.
and create an intimate connection. And so when I think about what I working on achieving with Chef Life Radio, it used to be a lark, it used to be a gag,
Mhm.
and a lot of people still got some great stuff out of it, but I want to be much more intentional. And if that means taking my time, if that means, 20 episodes a year, I don't give a shit. But, the craftsmanship, I think to me is
Yeah.
what really, really inspires me. I really get a kick out of your show. Paul Sorgel's, podcast is really good. I love his blogs, because he's, especially to the industry, he like,
Mhm.
he doesn't hold anything back. So I'm a big fan of truth and transparency.
Me
And
too.
anytime you can pull back the curtain, I'm all down for that.
Yeah, the first quote in my first book is my favorite quote, and it says, "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off."
I think I have a quote in An Initiated Man in one of the chapters. It's from the Merovingian and the Matrix. There's only one truth. There's only one truth in the world, and that's one truth in the universe, and that's causality.
That's it.
Right. So, be very, very cautious about what you wish for.
It's true.
Because every action, moving through this soup has an equal and opposite reaction.
Cause and effect, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Hey, brother, I want to say thanks, man, for being on the show today. I really appreciate you.
Donald, I appreciate you, man. And it gives me great hope for the industry that you're out there shouting and
Oh, thank
clanging
you.
pans. There's somebody who I'm following about growing a podcast, but
Mhm.
he's like, you cannot be shy.
Nope.
Right? There's so many voices out there, and this
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily pertain to podcasting, but it could be about creating a certain style in a restaurant or
Mhm.
writing a book or whatever. If you're not willing to stand up on the chair and be counted, then there's really no point in doing it. And you have every right to that because your voice is important and unique, and there will be people that will respond to that won't respond to me, won't respond to you, but all of us have to be singing a similar song.
Very, very true. No, that's true. And you can connect with Chef Adam here at, I put it up on the notes, www.chefliferadio.com. Check out his podcast. Connect with Adam. We've known each other for,
Yep.
6, 7 years now?
It feels like we've been working together forever, man.
Like,
Which is a nice feeling.
It's a great feeling, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
If
So again,
if you send me an email or you put something in the contact form, I will respond, and I will make sure that you get directed to the resources that you need, whether that's how to figure out a food cost or the fact that you're just having a bad night.
yeah. Adam and I are both pretty open about that. You reach out to us. We're here. Please don't think you got to do this alone. There are a lot of resources out there. I would say it's never a lack of resources that stop people's lack of resourcefulness.
Well, part of it is believing that you're worth it, right?
That's true.
When you get to that spot, like if you know that your boss is going to drive you into the ground and not give you any quarter and back you up, like that wasn't my situation, but there was a time in my past when that happened. You know, I can either fight or I can just decide to find something else, because ultimately I'm not going to eat their poison. Right. So it's not necessarily always about, you know, substance abuse, but our industry, you know, does a very, very poor job at providing resources for folks who suffer from mental illnesses or borderline personality or whatever the fuck just depression, man. Like going through fucking COVID for goddamn almost 15 months. We were closed for 365 fucking days to the day between in-person and in-person.
Yeah.
And all that time, all we were doing was more with less, because people kept falling by the wayside. So you put a smile on your face and you try to do the best you can. And ultimately that turns around and bites you in your ass, because nobody's being vulnerable enough to say, hey, listen, this really sucks and I'm really having a hard time.
Yeah. So reach out to us. We're here for you.
Thanks, buddy.
Again, thanks so much, Adam. I appreciate my friend, my brother.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
See you soon.
And thanks for tuning in.